Guys, remember last year we said we recruited 1,000 people. Well, this year actually we recruited 1,700 people already. Impressive, right? But how do you do when you have more than 2,700 people with less than 2 years of experience? That's what we're going to show you today. I'm Victoria. I work in the learning department.
And I'm Pierre, business analyst and HR expert. Hiring in massive number is hard, and there are many challenges to overcome. How do we make sure that each applicant gets the best recruitment experience? How we develop all those talent internally? How do we make sure that everybody fits the job and is where they belong? And of course, how do we avoid as many mistakes as possible in the hiring process? Those were all challenges that we faced last year and that you might face as well.
That's right. And in practice, it means that for every talent, every employee within Odoo, we want them to have the smoothest and the easiest journey, employee journey. And this from the recruitment until their evaluation, and sometimes their departure.
Hiring so many employees so fast, we need them to be efficient, productive, and knowledgeable as fast as possible to make sure they are pleased in their job and they won't look for another opportunity.
That's right. And because amazing employees deserve amazing software, we wanted to offer them the best HR suites. And as everything that we develop, it has to follow Fabien's motto, which is do more in less time. And that means that for every single step of the hiring process, the employee journey, it has to be as fast and as simple as possible.
And in many companies, a lot of employees spend more than 30% of their time in low-value tasks. This means administrative tasks or repetitive ones. And this is what the HR suite aims at tackling, really making sure that 100% of the employees' time is dedicated to what they are best at to make sure they develop their full potential in the company.
That's right. And at Odoo, our HR suite made us who we are today. We needed the best and we did develop it. And that's what we're going to show you today. How we managed to recruit, onboard, retain, and develop our talent internally within Odoo. So let's start with the first steps of an employee, the employee journey. The first two steps are basically our first two applications, recruitment and referral. That's right. In 2022, we had to deal with 12,000 applications. And this was handled by only 6 recruiters. Can you imagine? That's a lot, right? And the job market is a very, very competitive one. And we want the best of a candidate. It's the case for everyone.
And as you probably all know, we've all been through a difficult recruitment experience. Sometimes you have a very long time between contacts or interviews. The process can be extra long, several days, several weeks to get an offer, or very heavy process, big use case to prepare for weeks, and finally being ghosted sometime for weeks. You don't know if you have been refused or why you've been refused. This can give a really terrible experience to the candidate, but also for the image of the company.
That's right. And Odoo decided to obviously play a completely different game with a super smooth and fast process. And as an example, sometimes our recruiters have interviews on a Friday and the newcomers start the next Monday. So it's very, very short. And it means that for our recruiter, they need to save as much time as possible in the entire process. But should we jump in the demo and show it directly in Odoo?
Of course. Let's jump into a database. As you said, I'm a recruiter on the Monday morning, and I need to go in my recruitment application. Directly, in many companies, very few people manage the recruitment for the whole company. So they need to know the situation for each job position. That's why we have this enhanced Kanban view, where you really know what's going for each position. We can see here, we are looking for those 3 jobs, so they are published on our website. We can see how many people we recruit. Here, 1 people to recruit, and how many people are in the pipe. For example, marketing, six application. And finally, one late activities that I should get going. I already know maybe I have an offer to generate, an interview to plan.
That's right. And we are actually heavily recruiting on developer at the moment. So should we jump on that job offer that we created?
Yeah, you know that Odoo loves developer, and that's why we want to make sure they have the best experience. And we can see this beautiful page. It's even better on odoo.com, but this one I didn't have to do anything for it. Since Odoo is integrated with the website, you can easily modify those page, make something of quality, and all the applicants gonna arrive here and really see, okay, what are my responsibility, my must-have, what is the company about, what can I expect, and if I'm feeling good, let's apply. To apply, very small form. We don't want to lose applicants, so let's keep it simple. Here we will have Steve was. I don't know if you've heard of him. Let's just get his email address. steve@thewos.com. A phone number. I could either put my LinkedIn profile because people really keep that up to date, or simply a resume. I have my resume here. So as was, who is applying here, I really see, okay, I'm applying for this job, and here is the process. I can already wait for only 2 days for an answer, one phone call for the process, one on-site interview, and I could expect 4 days for an interview. So that really means maybe I'm not gonna look for another opportunity before seeing what Odoo has to offer for me. So really important to be fast, so you're sure the applicant
you don't lose them.
won't look for another opportunity.
That's great, but
Let's feel lucky, and that's it.
amazing. And how can we get applicants to apply, but not only from the website?
Yeah, of course, we talked about LinkedIn, other platform. Odoo didn't choose a strategy. We really want to bring people to our website. So the quality is there. We do some advertisement for our website. Of course, you can always go on. We have some posts on LinkedIn. We just simply put a link tracker, and by clicking on the link, you still arrive to the web page where you can easily apply. There is also the way with email alias. Let's think of a job fair. I can just give my card with an email address. I just send an email address, an email to that email address, and I will directly, in the backend for the recruiter, see all those new applications.
Okay, that's amazing. I can see how Odoo really put a point on the user experience here. But let's see how does that reflect from an HR point of view when you have the recruitment application open.
Yeah, so this was ready for the applicant, so great experience, very fast. Let's see for the recruiter. I can see I have a new application in my experienced developer. It's directly from my website. Steve was who applied to be an experienced developer. So I can directly see, it's gonna be a little bit to have all the, it's the CV that's being digitized. So already I can see the CV on the left. I'm gonna refresh my page just to see the OCR working. 1 second. And then with the CV, I can really update all the information, take some notes. All right, I see the CV worked. I can refresh my page, and Odoo is gonna take all the information on the right and put it in my application. So here I can see he took one of the wrong field. I'm just gonna change the name to Steve Was. And I can see, for example, in the CV, you can see all the skills there. Well, in the skills tab, all the skill came as well. So you can really see, okay, he has all the programming language, the language Arabic, Filipino. We decided to put them at the default value because it's really during the interview that we can assess those levels and really start focusing on those skills. So we put the basic level at the interview, and during the life of the employee, during the different appraisal, that's where we can see each skills evolve.
That's amazing. And speaking of the interview, you told me earlier that 30% of employees' time is spent on low-value tasks, right?
Yeah.
And this is in most companies. And one of the steps that take a lot of time and a lot of back and forth, emailing, etc., and that wastes a lot of time is definitely scheduling an interview, right?
Of course.
So how can we save time and do it directly in Odoo?
You go a lot back and forth. You can sometimes take weeks to just find one appointment. In Odoo, very easy. Either we saw the link with no meeting in a previous talk, But here I can just say, okay, I'm going to do my initial qualification. That's where I plan an interview with the recruiter to assess the different language. Just by doing that, automatically an email has been sent to the applicant where he can plan his interview. So like this, I can click, I received this email, I can click on it, I choose the time that suits me, I don't have to confirm with the recruiter, he's gonna get the notification, it's in own calendar. So let's confirm this appointment. All right, your appointment has successfully been booked, and I can just wait for my meeting with Mitchell.
So fast, amazing. And I have to say, my coding skills are not that great. So would I be able to add an experienced developer to the process?
Yeah, recruitment is a very collaborative job because you recruit the applicant, but you also sometimes have a manager to approve someone. You have an experienced developer to assess the different skills. So let's see how it works. Let's jump back to applicant Steve, and I can say, okay, Mitchell admin is the one that's going to do the final assessment, and Mark Demo is going to do the interview, specifically to assess the skills in development. So just by adding Mark here, he will receive a notification to arrive on this specific applicant, because I don't want him to see all the job positions. It's not relevant for him. So a lot of data that he doesn't want to see and that he shouldn't see. By adding him here, he's going to see this interview. He can take some notes here, see the different notes that were taken on the applicant, and as we said, assess the skill of development. He's doing an interview, and we can assess, okay, maybe he's not a beginner actually in Python. Steve, we know him, he's maybe already intermediate. So we can save, and that's it.
Amazing. Can you go back to the Kanban view?
Yeah, so I can say my interview was done, I could change it here, or as you said, I can just go into the application and do it with a drag and drop.
That's great and easy to do. But wow, we have so many applicants.
Yeah.
How do we manage to have so many applicants for one position?
So either we got some of them from the different platform, from all the one we brought to the website, from the email aliases, but what really works well in Odoo is all the employee. The employee make it possible to have an event like this. They have a great network and they really bring other people in.
That's completely right. And I don't know if you know that, but around 40% of our employees are actually recruited through Referral. So it's a huge number, it's really valuable for us. And as an intensive, we offer our employees 400 euros for every successful hiring. And it means that our employees become active collaborators to our talent pool, and they then become our best recruiters. But
so let's see that.
Yeah, exactly.
So in my contract sign, I could go show you just in a moment in the referral, but it really happens in the recruitment. So here, I have another Steve. He's a friend of Steve Rose. You might have heard of him as well. Well, actually, I, Mitchell Admin, as the officer, refer this user. So for that, since the contract has been signed, I'm going to get some points that I can use in my referral application. How does it reflect? I go into the recruitment application, out of it in the referral one, and I can see as an employee all the referrals that are already in the pipe. I have Steve here, that's just going to be 400 points. Jeffo and Joren, maybe later, if they move on to different steps, will also bring some points. But what can I do with those points? Let's go back to the dashboard, and I can see all the rewards that Odoo gives. Of course, there is the Amazon voucher for the 400 points, but even better, you can get a mug with 1,000 points, and maybe if I even recruit 4 more people or 5, I can hope to get an Odoo keychain.
The famous keychain. I wish I could get a keychain as well. But let's go back to recruitment, shall we? So, congratulations was, I think we're ready to send him an offer, and I had an interview actually with him, and I was quite impressed by his background, and I think he could be a really great fit for the company. So let's move forward. But I think first we need to refuse all the other candidates, right?
Yeah, it's true that, as we said, refuse reason is important to manage that as well. We can go, for example, and say Kelly isn't fitting the job for a reason. I can refuse it easily here for language issue. But what's better also, in Odoo 17, you can do that in mass, so you save even more time. I can say, okay, all those one, since Steve got the job, maybe it was only one spot left, while the job has been fulfilled. I can go into the action, refuse, and I have a brand new pop-up where I can choose a different refuse reason. Here, role already fulfilled, and I can send him an email that I can modify, so already he will know that he's been refused and why he's been refused. So very good for the image of the company. Let's do that and continue with the offer. I'm going in Steve Rose. We are going to do the contract proposal and generate the offer. Let's say he negotiated for 80,000 yearly cost. We're gonna save that, no space there. Save that. And here what you can see is a brand new model. It's the offer model that we added to the recruitment process. It has a lot of functionalities. First, it will help because it has a token that increases security. If you're in developer mode, you can see the field with the token. So when I'm sending the salary configurator in the mail, it won't see the details in the link, which is sometimes we could play with that, and it's really not what we want from the applicant. But even more, we can see the different stages of that offer, if he already signed or not. And if he starts negotiating, maybe we're going to send him a new offer, and you really have a history of every offer for that specific applicant.
That's great.
All right. As I was saying, the salary configurator, I could completely encode here all the personal information to see how you can validate and sign. It's a bit of time, so rather let me show you how it looks in Odoo.com, so you really see that we actually use this salary configurator and how impactful it is. I'm just on Odoo.com and I'm looking for a job, and I can try the configurator here. Sorry, it's in French. Let's say Steve Rose had 3 years of experience, and he can configure his own salary. And what's great about this, it's so powerful because I'm really going to show him what he's going to get with his experience. He can choose some monthly benefit, like a company car. If he has his own, it's not obliged to do it, so we really adapt to every applicant, very agile. Add some days off if he wants, and directly, as soon as I change one of those configurations, I can see how this will be impacted directly on my salary.
That's great.
And that's it. As soon as I postulate, I can sign this contract online, be approved by the HR officer, and create my employee.
That's great. It's really like cafeteria style, so you can pick and choose whatever you want and make it the best for you. So I think we're done with recruitment and referral, and we were able to see the full flow of how we managed to hire so many people and in a very short period of time, right? Yes. But now that we have so many employees that we are hiring every month, we need to stock and centralize their information somewhere, right?
And this is why we have the employee app. It's very at the center of the HR suite. This is a powerful app which makes it possible to store all the data about the employee. Because first, it's mandatory. It's in the law to keep the data of the employee, but even more, there's other information like the work information, the resume with the skills of the employee. That's very interesting to share with every other colleagues.
That's right. And you know it, at Odoo, we love integration. And the employee app is the best example of that. It's really the center of them all, and it communicates with every single one of them. And as you can see in this slide, so in Abigail's profile, you can see on the top right, you can see all the smart buttons. And all of those smart buttons are actually links to other applications. So you can see a contract, her time off, her timesheet, and you can directly access the information from the employee profile. You can also see, that's a new feature actually, the next appraisal date, so directly again from the employee profile. So that's really nice, right? But let's jump in the demo again.
Of course.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Welcome, Woz, and congratulations for your new position at Odoo.
Yeah, of course. So if I had sent the salary configurator to Oz and he did sign in online, as soon as Rose signs it and the HR officer, the employee is created automatically with all the data. Here, I didn't took the time to do that because it's a lot of information, but I can still, without the salary configurator, create my employee directly. And as you can see, of course, all the data followed. So all the data was mainly encoded by the applicant. So time saved for the HR officer. Then I didn't have to encode it another time in another software, in an Excel, nowhere else. You really have so much time saved for the HR officer to focus on something else.
That's great, and it's actually something that really takes a lot of time when you have to re-enter everything manually, so it's a nice.
And here, as I was saying, you can see really all the data about the employee, the resume, work information, private information, and much more.
But that's a lot of information, right? And those information are quite private, so I want to make sure that the right person sees the right information.
Yeah, so that was a big focus for this year. Data is sensitive, and especially personal data of every employee is very sensitive. So here, I'm Mitchell admin, I'm an HR officer, I can see everything, of course. For the sake of the demo, it's important. This HR setting only visible to the HR officer, to Mitchell admin. So the employee won't see it. Then the private information, this is only visible by the HR officer, but also by the employee himself. And if I let him, with the self-edit option, I can let him go into his own profile and edit all his personal information, such as the private address, the family status, and so on. So again, he's responsible and time saved for the HR team. There is also just the work information and the resume. Resume, we saw our Python skills. So if an employee, I'm looking for someone who's good in Python, I can go there, see and contact the person easily. And in the work information, if he's home or not, who is his manager, and so on.
Amazing. And I can see over there that there is a new smart button, which is org chart. Can you tell me more about that? I know you probably have already seen that, but I think it's a nice thing to show again.
We can always show it again because that's what we like about Odoo, very user-friendly. Here I can only see Mark Demo above me, but who are the colleagues of Steve if I need to contact someone of his team instead of Steve? I can go into the org chart and see the full team on Mark Demo. If I want to talk to someone else, I can go, play around, and really look at every department to really find the people I need to talk to.
That's great. I love how visually appealing this is with the color by department, etc. Anything else you want to add on this?
So just as you were showing in the slide, you have all the smart buttons really making easy link to every application. All the smart buttons in Odoo have been reworked, so you have a bit more information if a meeting has been scheduled and so on. And also super interesting in Odoo in action, there is a lot of small features hidden, such as here the print menu. You can print a badge if you use attendance, so your small badge to check in, check out. You can have the time of summary. We've seen also before where you can really see for the whole department, your team, the time of they took to do a summary of that. And print resume, we saw it worked. Actually, the resume you just saw before from Steve was actually created with that configuration. Also, let's create a new user. And this new user is Steve Rose. Let's save that. So easy as that, we create the new user, so we can give him access later to all his time off, all his appraisal, and much more.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And know that we have Steve as an employee. We want to make sure that he develop those Python skills internally. And we know that his data are now safe and sound. So let's move to the next application, which is Appraisal. And so, talking about Appraisal, it's basically something that we just made the switch to Appraisal internally. So all our employees made the switch and are now using the Appraisal app internally. And I have to say, that was a long due. Why? Because we are focusing more and more into talent development, talent evolution internally within Odoo. And so we stopped using those external tools like, you name it, Google Sheet, Google Drive, etc. And we all now use the Appraisal application. And it really empowers our employees to develop in the company. They can evaluate themselves, but they can also evaluate their peers with the 360 feedback. So it's a really, really nice way to see our talent develop in the company. But let's see again in Odoo to see how that works.
So let's go to our employee.
Exactly.
Request. Sorry. So here I can, with this button, straight request an appraisal. In Odoo, that's not how we work internally, because you can always use that for a one-time appraisal, but the idea is that everyone deserves an appraisal every year. Even more, for some cases, you can do it twice a year.
6 months,
and so we have this appraisal plan for which we can automatically create an appraisal for each employee So each employee each year can assess their situation in the company, see if that's what they are where they belong, or if they have new objective. So let's create this new appraisal. Here I could do it for any employee. So here it's Abigail. For Abigail, we see the template we have for the specific management department. But if I configure it correctly, if I create the one from Steve was, well, I have a specific template for his own department. So really, I can really tailor that for each department to ask a relevant question, which you can see below. Those are actually questions we actually ask to our own employees.
And it's customized per department, so it's really great. But should we move forward, confirm this appraisal, and schedule it?
Let's confirm it. As soon as I confirm it, I'm going to be able for each the employee give his feedback on the left, for the manager as well on the other side, on the right. Yes, good. And then we have the appraisal date, mark demo, and as you talked about during the slide, we can ask feedback because who better knows how Steve works than his colleague. So we can ask them what are the real strengths of Steve, where could he have some point of improvement. So let's choose a template. We either have a template for the whole company or again a specific one for each department. We choose the different colleagues we want to ask. We have some deadline and easily a template is already done. Easy as that. We can just send and wait for the feedback.
That's great. And
yeah, I can see those feedback here. That's just what I was going to say. You see here 0 and 2. I'm waiting for the answer. That's what I was talking about with the improved button where you really see the information. When I see that they don't answer or straight ahead, that happens.
That's a reminder.
Then we can easily resend it to them, change to say this time answer, and to make sure we get the good amount of feedback to really assess the skills of Steve.
That's right. It's always great to have a gentle reminder for this kind of thing. And so one of the pain point was his Python skills.
Yeah.
How can we see that? How can we assess that? How can we evaluate him on those skills?
So I created my appraisal on the spot, but still it's pre-filled with all this information because from the employee app, I took all the skills, use it in the appraisal, integrated solution, and I can assess 1 year later what's now the situation. And that's where I can say now he's getting really good. He's now an advanced Python coder. I can save, and as soon as I mark this appraisal as done, all this modification in skills are going to be resent back on the employee, so really integrated, and you can really work on the evolution. So what else about evolution? Well, of course, we assess the solution, and we also want our employee to define their goals for the next year, and you can have this smart button, which is linked to the different appraisal, but also on the employee, so later on you can look what are the goals for the next year. I can create one, for example, let's not say again improve Python skill because pretty good level, but maybe teach the rest of the team about it. All right. I set this goal to Steve. Let's say he's not at 0 because he already helped the other Steve with his Python skill. And just like that, we set the goal. We can define, of course, different full description for the skill, set a deadline, save it, and then he's good to go for all his goals for the year.
That's great. And I think it's really, really important to set yourself objective and goals to make sure that you evolve in the company, as it's really, really important. And yeah, I think we're ready. We are done with the appraisal. One thing that we did not cover yet, and that is really, really important, is whenever an employee leaves the company. And it's not a joyful nor an easy moment or process, but it's still really, really important because you need to do it the right way, right? You don't want to, it has to be handled the right way. So is there a process in Odoo that we can do and that makes that super easy and fast?
Yes, so Steve was involved in Odoo. We can see the skills, as I was saying, that events. Maybe he's looking for another opportunity. So let's say that he's going to create his own iOdoo, his own solution. He's an entrepreneur. And to do that, I can simply archive the employee. Very easily, this is the equivalent of the employee termination. He's not fired, he resigned because he is the entrepreneur. He's going with the other Steve. But very easily, all the activities are closed. So the appraisal is closed, the contract, time off, allocation. You don't need to think it through. It's done for you. And a small feature here as well, the HR info send access link. Very easily, he will receive a link on his private email address with all his own document, the one which is owner. For example, old payslip, which you might need with your next employer. So very easily, you can finish the collaboration with any employee. Let's apply, and that's it.
All right. So we were able to see the full HR flow of Steve in Odoo. And actually, to conclude, at Odoo, our employees are our identity, and we needed to offer them the best. And that's what we just show you with this entire flow.
Yes, starting with recruitment, as we said, we have more than 1,700 employees in Odoo, with 6 recruiters last year, 7 this year. So we needed an application that's simple and fast, and that makes it possible to attract the best talent.
That's true. And the referral application makes our employees an active collaborator to our talent pool. And this sense of ownership and engagement is very, very important for us internally.
Then there is the employee app, the heart of the HR suite. That's where you manage all your data. Now you can keep your data, evolve your data, view your data, either personal, either HR setting, either work information. So a very powerful app as well.
That's right. And no journey is complete without a milestone, and that's where the Appraisal application comes in, where you can really develop in the company and become the best version of yourself.
So as before, and always for the HR suite, the aim is always to save time without compromising on quality.
That's right. And so guys, whether you're looking for the best HR suite out there, or for your company, or whether you're looking for a job and want to join us at Odoo, we are always on the lookout. So thank you so much for listening, and we can do the Q&A.
And thank you.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. Thanks for a lovely presentation. You guys did a good job, so there's not many questions. The first one is, can the appraisal template be specific per position and not per department?
So no, the idea is really to have it by department. It's kind of a reflection we had, but if you try to make it very different for every job position, that's also why you cannot really compare it between each developer, each sales. So no, you can either have one for the whole company or one per department, but you can always also create your own, have it in your knowledge app, and then use it internally for a specific job position.
But that's something we're thinking about.
Okay, thank you. Can you easily customize the survey of the 360 feedback in Appraisal?
Yeah, of course. So I can take just a moment to show you directly in the department. So that's where I was able to define the specific template here in the configuration of my department. I have a custom appraisal template, but I also can define a specific appraisal survey.
Great. We have a lot of questions coming in. Do you have historical capabilities of the appraisal for an employee? So for example, looking back on previous appraisal, how do you guys keep track of each year, for example?
Yes, so the appraisal I was showing before, that was the first one for this applicant, but I could always have a smart button. As soon as I have more than one, I have a smart button on the appraisal that makes it possible to review the previous one, so you can really compare year by year the different appraisal.
And you keep all your appraisal year by year. You can archive them, but you can keep them and go back to them.
Okay. What are you doing with the employees' data when they leave the company?
Well, that's what we just saw. You can archive it, but you also always have the possibility to delete those records. If you want to anonymize anything, you can always delete those records. We keep them archived at first, but no restriction to delete it yourself.
Okay, following on that, what happens if an employee leaves the company and then comes back? So if the employee is archived and then reactivated, is it back to zero?
Well, if he comes back, you can just unarchive him. Back to zero, it depends if you close all the activities. Well, all the activities are closed, but it's also relevant to have all those closed activities. They are not going to be deleted, so probably archived, and that's why you can always unarchive those other records to collect back all the information. Interesting for Odoo because a lot of employees that leave come back
Are coming back.
because who doesn't have Odoo?
Also, someone is asking, can we use the HR app for recruiting freelancers?
For what?
Recruiting freelancers with the HR app.
So we just had a talk about that there was a talk especially for that. When you saw all the new industry, one of the one for the HR is really for headhunter. It's what you're asking, right?
So someone is asking if we can use the HR app to recruit freelancers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Like
of course.
not employee, but freelancers.
Yeah, you can always recruit freelancers, have specific tag on them to really make sure they're either employee or
Yeah, you
as
can
an employee,
you can recruit any type of employees. It's just basically a job offer, so no problem.
I was
with that.
mixing with also the headhunter possibilities. We had a
Yeah,
talk on that.
industries.
One of the new industry is really the possibility to have a headhunter managing all of that in Odoo.
All right. Someone is asking, can the employees submit their resignation to the system like a workflow? They put it in quote.
I would have to check the access right for that, but well, I don't think anybody resigned their own employee themselves. It's always a conversation with your manager, and then they can always archive it for you. So I don't know if it's.
And I think legally you need to send a letter or an email or something like that.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Someone is asking, but I think Geoffrey already answered this. But are you thinking about connecting Odoo to recruitment platforms? I think it did answer.
Geoffrey answered it. It's a work in progress. Even if Fabien thinks that's useless because the best strategy we had was to bring people to our website, and you can see it with all the people here. It actually worked, but it's still for the next version. It's coming up. Link with LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed, and much more coming up.
We have a question from Axel from Poland. I don't know where you are, but hi. He is asking, are we able to connect sales KPI or other KPIs from Odoo with goals?
Sales KPIs?
Yeah.
Well, the goals, you can set pretty much anything to it, but right now there is no link with the sales application.
There is a description, so you can write it down or like copy paste it from another application, but it's not integrated with the
it
CRM.
Seems to be a pretty specific use case, so feel free to come up to the booth and we can really look into that use case together to really look how we can do it in standard.
Okay. Someone is asking, is it possible to use Appraisal app for employees that aren't Odoo users, for example, cleaning staff?
The appraisal, you can create them for any employee, so you don't need to be a user to create an appraisal for someone, but then to have access to it, it stays for the user that's going to manage the appraisal, but you can always share it some way with the different employees which are not users.
Okay. Someone is asking, is the OCR scanning of the CV a paying service or is it free?
The OCR is like the one from invoicing. You have to pay credit for that because it's not a service done by Odoo. It's an independent solution, so it's really made. It's the same credits as you have for the invoicing OCR.
Okay. Someone is asking, how did you make the switch to the Appraisal app internally, and was the process hard?
Yes, I mean the process is always hard to have 3,000 people switching to the Appraisal app, and so it's a lot of change management. It's a lot of also with this switch we managed to fix a lot of bugs to make sure that everything was working, that there was no security issues, etc. And so that was a long process, but I think, and it's still a work in progress. I'm not saying like it's 100% great now, but I think it's working well, and so the change management is definitely something that we're working on and adapting also, and people like their Google form or whatever. So it's a work in progress. But we're
to add on that, it was a big work because not all the 3,000 employees were using the appraisal. In some departments it's mandatory, but that made it possible for some developers that were doing really great, but never sometimes getting any appraisal, to make sure they get the appraisal, to make sure am I satisfied with what I'm doing. So it really helped to have
Yeah.
just more appraisal, but it was some progress to get the different templates from each department, to define what are the relevant questions for the different surveys. So yeah, as Victoria said, it was a big work, but going well so far.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking, is there a way to split employees / contact / applicant names to the first and last name? Like, I mean, for instance, now it's only one field.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you
only
split
one
it in two, or
it's not standard to split this field in two, so we consider it one field for the name and surname. Yeah.
okay? Can we create a freelance profile with a specific address?
Nothing blocks you to do that in Odoo. I don't see why you would not either do it as a contact, as an employee. There is no, an employee is not, of course, a user. So depending on your needs with that freelancer, you can always create it and see what you really need for that freelancer. But nothing blocks you to do it.
Yeah.
And again, if you have specific needs for that, feel free to see at the booth after.
All right. Can Odoo screen all applications with an EA tools, and how to calculate final rating in appraisals?
So the final rating is really, am I on? Okay.
It's really up to you to decide the final rating. So basically, what we have in standard is, you can show it, is basically exceed expectation, meets expectation, and those kind of things. And so we at Odoo, we decide we have some standards, but you can decide for your company whether like you want to.
Yeah, what are your preferences?
So those are the evaluation scale you can define when you finish. This one wasn't confirmed, so you don't see it, but as soon as the appraisal is confirmed, you can choose the evaluation for this appraisal. Here it's some basic one. You can always adapt them if you want a scale from 1 to 10 or something like this. And there were another point in the beginning?
Yeah, it was, can Odoo screen all application with an EA tools, in EI tools?
Yeah, tool.
Yeah, so we saw how it was done for one, for the OCR. You can also mass import CVs in the document application. You have a lot of options in the document application to split the CVs as well, create application for all the CVs, so very powerful as well. Yeah, good point.
Okay, and someone is asking, is there a pool where candidates are sorted for further opportunities?
It's a question for you.
A pool.
I would say you can do a stage, like in Odoo, where you have contract signed, and if somebody is not like taken, they can be contacted
You
later.
can keep them. I guess the HR team is doing. The recruiters are doing that, and they keep the contact information for later.
So when we saw the refuse option, it's not going to delete the records. It's going to archive them. So you can always go back to the recruitment application, look at all the application, look at all the archived one, and then look at all those previous applications, because maybe the job of developer was open again. The one we refuse would fit the job, and we can unarchive those, contact them again, and start again this recruitment process. So yeah, you have this pool of all older applications.
And you can also go back to, so you write down notes during the interview, and you can go back to that if you want a specific one and see how it went, if you want a good reminder of the candidate. So.
Okay, we have one last one that I skipped earlier, I don't know why. Is there an end of contract template in the feedback form? Like I would guess someone is asking, is there an end of contract template feedback form?
Is there an end of
contract template
feedback?
Like maybe if someone wants to resign or we want to fire someone, can we use
can we send a feedback form afterward for those who resign?
So for the feedback
the
form,
end of collaboration feedback form, I guess.
For the feedback form for the survey, you can always create a specific one which will be adapted to that. In the signed application, you can create template of contract, of resignation contract that you can use as well. I think it's two split configuration that do exist, but that you have to work with to actually manage the full usage.
Something like this. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.